Okay, so Dallas wins in 6. The Clippers, how many chances do they have left, man? Don't get me wrong, I'll say nice things about the Mavs defense and all that in this one, but look, Kawhi next season is going to be, 33? Which, to be clear, by today's standards is not super old in the NBA. Like, that is young enough to where you can still be elite in the whole thing. It's just, I mean, you know what I'm going to say here. I mean, it was this season against the Mavs, he appears in a couple games. Last year against the Suns, he was going crazy until he goes down. I mean, we all know what Kawhi can do if he's healthy in the playoffs, but it's just, man, year after year, if Kawhi is healthy. And remember that stretch they had in the regular season? They went like 28-2 or whatever it was over that 30-game stretch where the flow on offense was good enough. I mean, it was still like a lot of ISO, but, it was enough with the Harden screens with Zoo, and it was enough of like Kawhi and PG being involved in some off-ball actions and all that to where it's like, if they can just get there, and now, as we say that, they did lose some of that going into the series, which is why I picked Dallas to win. And, we got to 6 games. Kawhi only played a little bit in the series, obviously wasn't himself. Does a healthy Kawhi shift the series in some way? Of course, maybe Dallas still wins. I don't know, but it would have been closer. The point being is, man, it's just the uncertainty just hovering around this team at all times because of this. I just, none of this is shocking that I'm talking about. And now we do have some little whispers here and there. Listen, we got PG's extension, which has not been agreed upon. He was not great in this series, outside of that insane shot-making game that he had in Game 4. And for what it's worth, his first 2 games, I mean, the numbers weren't crazy, but, I don't know, they were better than what they ended up being at the tail end, if that matters to you at all. I think Harden has proven to be probably the best possible playmaker they could have gotten to play with Kawhi and PG, just given where their assets were at and the unique situation that developed with Harden and Philly. And, I mean, for all the talk with PG and his extension, I mean, we're going to have to see where that ends up with Harden as well. And yes, if you want to get your playoff James Harden takes off, I mean, these last 2 games compared to his first 4, he just wasn't as good, point blank. I already said very nice things about Kyrie's ball pressure on him in the previous game. So yeah, and as far as the future of Paul George, he's got the player option and all that, I don't know. We all know that they're negotiating an extension. We all know that the Sixers, I mean, I don't want to say attached to Paul George, but there's noise there. And they have an insane payroll, and they've got a new arena, so they want to be good, and just... It feels like we're just having this conversation every year. I mean, the difference now is that Harden is on this team, whereas last year he was not. But, it feels like the same conversation almost every year. I mean, we've been doing this for, 4 or 5 years now at this point. I mean, I can only speak for me, but, the high point of this run has probably been when they pushed the Suns to Game 6 in the conference finals a couple years ago where, Kawhi went down against the Jazz, and then Paul George went nuts, and then, they made still a pretty decent playoff run. That's been the peak. At least to me. The general feeling now, a couple years removed from that, is just it's just a big sigh. That's what it is. Now, as far as Dallas, I thought the plays with 2 on the ball to Luka were very good, where it's leave Lively, middle of the floor, swing to, I think it was Dante Exum, another swing to PJ Washington for a corner 3, or PJ just left open for a corner 3 that drops in, or 2 to Luka, and then Daniel Gafford's turning that into a shot at the rim where he's getting fouled. Of course, he had the dunk on Zoo, where he was definitely on the brink of an offensive foul there, which, to be clear, even if that play went the other way, that would not have changed the outcome of this game. And then defensively, hey man, you got Kyrie tipping passes and then diving on the floor to force a jump ball. You got him closing out like a madman on Paul George, which forces a turnover. And of course, just the general play-to-play physicality and size and the whole thing. I mean, this is what Dallas did at the deadline. Getting PJ, getting Gafford, Grant Williams out the door. Love you, Grant. This was the vision for their team. A bunch of defensive players and a lot of wings who can put the ball on the floor, keep the plays alive when you get Kyrie and Luka getting 2 to the ball on him. Lob threats, the whole thing. Look, Luka was very good. He had a play right there where he's contesting Russ at the rim really well when he was sagging off of him or whatever. So anyway, we now have a Dallas Thunder next round series, which is really interesting, and I already picture Lou Dort just fighting like hell, guarding most likely Luka a lot of the time. Anyway, can we talk a little bit about the Cavs and the Magic, or what felt like the Magic versus Donovan Mitchell, especially that fourth quarter? My God, the dude took so many shots, splitting double teams, deep threes that go in, step back over Jonathan Isaac, but then he gets blocked by Wendell, or they throw the whole team at him and it forces a turnover. I mean, it was everything from Donovan Mitchell in that fourth quarter against the Magic, which speaks to something with Cleveland's offense that may or may not matter depending on how Game 7 goes. But yes, Donovan scored over half their points. On the other end, what you've got is Paolo 3-point play on Mobley in the post, or making a 3 over Mobley, or Jalen Suggs transition 3, or Cole Anthony screening for someone, I forget who. It's a bunch of swings. It becomes Franz going downhill for a score. And yes, I know Jared Allen is out for Cleveland, but it's kind of crazy how there is No pressure on Orlando whatsoever. Them winning 47 games and getting to Game 7 of Round 1 this early into this whole thing is great. And on the flip side, Cleveland has to win Game 7. They should. They're at home, all that stuff. They have to win Game 7. Because after making the Mitchell trade and 2-year sample size, even if this year was definitely a weird one because of injuries, in fact, it was so weird that you could make a pretty decent case that the most fun time of the season for them was when some of their top guys were hurt. But of course, we're happy to see everybody healthy. We don't want anybody to go down. Yeah, Cavs, you got to win Game 7. There you go.